Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for our information session on Intrax Global Internships. My name is Amanda Elliott. I am the program coordinator here in our headquarters in San Francisco, and my colleague is also on the line, Jim Key. I'll let Jim introduce himself.
Hi, my name's Jim Key. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development, and I've been with Intrax and with this particular program for going on 5 years.
Great.
So what we're going to do today is, just moving forward, I'll kind of walk through what our agenda is going to be, and I'm going to just sort of introduce a little bit as to what we do at Intrax, how the program works, our locations, and sort of how one takes part in it. Now, this is the presentation we normally do when we're live on campus, so on this next slide you'll see a few questions I would ask you if you were a live audience in some room in the Career Center or in but I'm not going to ask you here on the phone since there's a few of you out there. But some things to think about: who's been abroad, who speaks another language, and the languages that you speak, really how you might integrate that into your professional development. Thinking about why you want to work abroad, what are the reasons to do it. And I know that with many students, the reasons that they want to work abroad, and there are many, but some of the stronger ones are, number one, they've been abroad, maybe they've studied abroad or traveled abroad, and they're looking for a way to go back to gain maybe a different experience than they had before. Another one are students who just look at the current circumstance as far as hiring goes and unemployment upon graduation, and want experience that's really going to stand out for them. But we often get a lot of different answers. So that the next step is just a little bit on who we are at Intrax. So Intrax has been around since 1980. We do a variety of different cultural exchanges, so inbound and outbound internships. So people coming to the United States from around the world to intern here, as well as obviously students going abroad to intern. Study abroad, people coming to the U.S. to learn English, as well as high school students coming to the U.S. We have, again, a variety of different divisions that are not really under the Intrax name. Volunteer programs, work travel, people working in areas. I actually interviewed a group of Bulgarians who spent last summer working up in Alaska. So we do that. We're actually the #3 au pair provider in the United States. So the long and short of this is that we do a number of different exchange programs. That's really our expertise. We have offices around the world. We've got them listed on there. We also have partner offices in a couple other places, specifically in China, where we can't actually own the office, but they are very much representing Intrax. And this year, we're going to place possibly just a little bit over 2,000 university students in internships around the world. So this Global Internships program was really created to help give students from North America or studying in North America professional experience around the world, because there are many ways to study abroad, but it's and often interning in the U.S. or Canada is challenging enough, but finding an internship overseas is very difficult, and we have the expertise to do that. So that's why we've got this program. And that brings me to the next slide, is a little bit on why you might want to intern abroad. Biggest reason is to prepare for a global career. You hear it everywhere. If you go to your own university website, you'll see it talking about the global economy that students graduate into. Well, working abroad is a great way to prepare for that. It's a great way to stand out. We've had many students, and I'm going to get to that in just a second, but we've had many students who come back and they find that they stand out quite a bit in their in interviews, because someone interviews 8, 10 people in a day. And at the end of the day, when they're talking to the one student who was interning for an ad agency in Madrid, or for a management consulting firm in Berlin, or for a banking or a bank, I should say, in China, they obviously stand out compared to some of the other student experiences that they're up against, that they're competing against. You're really immersed in a different language. One of the real truest things about learning a foreign language is that being immersed, hearing it all the time, that is the best way to learn it. And this really gives you that experience. It's a cultural experience. You're living in or working in a major global economic center. so you're getting just an amazing experience, and finally you're building out your professional network. A lot of our students have been able to leverage their contacts overseas to get jobs actually back in the United States or in Canada, or to some have been able to get jobs overseas, but that's only really a handful. So let me just share a couple student stories that I've got. Number one, the first one actually was sent to me by the director of the College of Business Career Center at the University of Pittsburgh, and that was a student who'd interned through us in Berlin the summer before, and he was hoping to intern with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Washington, D.C. at their federal practice, and he just talked about how much he stood out compared to the others, and that everyone who interviewed him was so impressed with it. A second student was at the College of Business at the University of California, Berkeley. It's top 5 College of Business undergrad, and yet despite that, he said that the experience that really stood out the most for him when he was interviewing with Visa was his summer internship in Madrid. And actually, if you were paying close attention a couple slides back, you saw a picture of Diego. Not that you would have known to pay attention ahead of time. The next student is actually covered a little bit in our website. His name's Matt Mon, and he had graduated from Marquette University. He was finding he graduated into a challenging job market, and he wanted to get professional experience of any kind, but especially just high-quality professional experience. He'd also studied abroad in London and wanted to possibly go back. He did a great job with his host company and actually got a job offer. Now, let me caution, it's pretty unusual that students get job offers, but it does happen. It tends to be with smaller, more entrepreneurial firms because a student can stand out and really impress the person who has the ability to hire them. I can vouch for my own experience working in a very large organization that people have heard of. There were so many layers of bureaucracy. It was much more challenging to create an overseas hire at a well-known firm. The last student actually interned with us 2 different summers. She interned in Paris and then interned in London, and she's speaking here about some of the experience she had in London and how she was able to leverage that to getting a great job upon graduation. One of the things that's notable about Mathilde is that she chose our program over the Yale program, and actually Yale's program at the time was much less expensive. One of the reasons she did was that she felt like she had a little bit more input, or not really control, but a lot more input on where she would be working, and she appreciated that. So with that, I'm going to hand things back over to Amanda.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the different programs that we have. We have 2 programs to offer. The first one I'm going to talk about is our placement-only program, and this is a program that's for a more mature candidate. It's a little bit more independent, so not as much guidance. We still have a lot that we include, but it's a little bit more flexible. You get to choose your own dates. You'll choose your own housing and stuff like that. But let me tell you a little bit about what we include in the program. So an internship placement, these are a minimum of 8 weeks, but like I said, you can determine those dates. It goes year-round. A maximum will just depend on the length that the visa would be valid. So it does depend on the location as well. We'll go through your CV, and we'll also help you prepare for interviews. In a lot of cases, CVs and resumes, they might be different from what we're used to in the U.S. So we'll help you get that into a standard format that would be, standard for your destination city. And then we'll also give you some tips on ways that you might be able to improve that resume. With the interview, you'll work with me, and you'll also work with your country manager, who we'll talk a little bit more about in a future slide here. But we'll give you tips on how to have successful interviews. Usually those are done via Skype. But we'll get you prepared for those and give you information on the actual positions that you would be interviewing with. Each host company will provide you with a job description that you could become pretty familiar with. In the pre-departure orientation, it'll be a webinar kind of like this, so you just have to have access to a computer. You don't have to travel anywhere, but we'll address all of your questions before you leave. We'll talk about budgeting and packing, health and safety to get you ready for your trip. And we also offer in-country emergency support. So we do understand that it can be very, intimidating going to a different country, into a different culture. There might be language barriers. So we do offer emergency support in each of our locations. Visa assistance. A lot of times, some locations you don't have to apply for a visa. If you have a U.S., Canadian, EU passport, those are the ones that we're pretty familiar with. If you do have to apply for a visa, we'll go ahead and help you get any paperwork that you need. We'll let you know the appropriate visa that you need to apply for. In a lot of cases, we can't apply for the visa. We can't take it to the consulate or anything, but we will get you all of that paperwork that you need. Academic credit. This would be up to your university if they would be willing to accept the internship for credit. We can definitely verify that information for your university. A lot of times they'll just need for us to fill out a form, or we can write you a letter if you need that. We also provide health and accident insurance. We want you to feel, confident going abroad and not worry about, if you get sick, we'll have that covered for you on the health and accident insurance. Just to note that some countries, these are mostly European countries, they don't allow interns post-graduation, or you have to have graduated within a certain period of time. Usually that's about a year. But a few locations, just off the top of my head, Germany, Spain, and France, you do have to currently be enrolled. And then in the UK, you would have had to graduate within the year. The program fee for this program is $23.95. And then for each additional month after that first 2 months, it would be $150 per month, and that would cover the support and the insurance. These are the locations: London, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, Berlin, Santiago, Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo, and a few others too for the placement only. With a few exceptions, we do offer stipends. The host companies would offer the stipends for placements that would be 3 months or longer. So we can give you some more information on those stipends as well. The next program is going to be our premium program. This one is better for students who might need a little bit more guidance throughout the process, or you might just be looking for a group experience. So all of the same things are going to be included in this program that was included in the placement only, but we do have a few other items that we include in the premium program, including housing. This would be the group housing. Our housing would be in student-type residences or apartments. So you would actually be living with the other Intrax interns throughout the summer. These are going to be set dates in the summer. The program starts on June 16th, June 17th in Paris, and it will go through August 10th, so 8 weeks there. Also in this program, we include a cultural excursion and a welcome dinner. Usually the excursion is going to be towards the beginning of the program, so it's a great chance for you guys to bond as a group and go somewhere really cool. Some past excursions, in the UK, we went to Stonehenge and Bath. In Berlin, we went to Hamburg, and in Spain, we went to, actually the Madrid group and the Barcelona group, they came together and they actually went to Valencia one year, and they went to Sevilla another year. In China, we went to Hangzhou. The Shanghai group went there last year. So just a few samples there so you get an idea of what the cultural excursion might include. And then a big portion of the premium program is the global skills training. So the global skills training, we're giving you information about, cultural intelligence, how to kind of succeed in your internship, how to make the most of your internship. This is divided into a few different presentations. So when you first arrive, half of it is going to be devoted to kind of like a classroom setting where we go through the presentation, and then the other half is going to be more like just settling in. So we're going to help you, navigate the neighborhood and Transportation, we're going to help you get set up with phones and SIM cards and stuff like that, just to, because it is kind of overwhelming when you first arrive and there might be a language barrier. So that's what we devote that first day to. At the end, we will also have a capstone presentation. We want to give you a chance to kind of reflect on your internship and share what you've learned with your peers. So we'll be doing that at the end of the program for the premium. Down at the bottom, we talk a little bit about the program fee. This does depend on location, but that is the price range, so $59.50 to $8,150. So just depending on the location, we do have different program fees. All right, next slide. A little bit about what it's like to be an intern. Just to keep this presentation pretty short, we're not going to actually play the video, but there's a really great video that you can check out. You can follow this link here. I'm not sure if you'll actually be able to click on it during the presentation, but if you just want to go to YouTube, you can search TJ Intrax. TJ was actually one of our past interns. He interned with us in London. He gives a really great video. It's about 6 minutes where he just kind of takes us through his day-to-day life. He'll start at with his commute. He'll introduce us to his coworkers and kind of tell you a little bit about the projects that he worked on. So if you're kind of curious about what it would actually be like, go ahead and check out that video. Again, just go to YouTube and search TJ Intrax. You can also go to our website. For each of our locations, we have bloggers. So they give a really great idea of what it would be like to intern in any one of our locations, talking about pre-departure concerns and then settling in, day-to-day projects that they worked on, and then they'll kind of tell us about what it's like after they've returned. So be sure you check those out. All right, and a little bit about one of our, we'll kind of split this into different continents. So first one is going to be Asia. We've got locations in Beijing, Shanghai, Singapore, and Tokyo. So all, great cities to go to, very international cities. A lot of times, if you don't really know the language, you might be kind of intimidated, like, oh, well, how am I going to get around? I don't speak Chinese, or I don't speak Japanese. These are very international cities. It's actually really easy to get around. A lot of times they'll have signs in English as well. Announcements are in English a lot of times. And you really get that ancient blended with the modern. So if you want to look over here on the left-hand side, you kind of these are both pictures of Shanghai. You can kind of see the very modern skyline, and then you've got the ancient temple, kind of like a garden here. So you really do get that really great blend. Also a lot of upscale shopping that you can do. You can also bargain in a lot of these local markets and stuff. Really fun. Good way to practice your language skills too. Great art scene, lots of live music festivals that you can go to, and it's actually really easy to travel to nearby cities. Transportation is pretty, it's a lot cheaper than it is to get around here in the States. You don't have to book too far in advance either, so you can hop on a train somewhere or get a pretty decent flight. Some of our popular internships, we've got a lot of business development, logistics. So Singapore is a big transit hub down there, so if you're interested in logistics, that would be a great place. A lot of finance. We actually work with the Mitsubishi Bank in Tokyo, so that would be a great finance position that we could offer. In Asia, we actually do have quite a bit of English-speaking positions as well. So in China, also Singapore. So if you don't speak the language, we do have some positions that don't require knowledge of the local language. But just kind of going through these photos, Shanghai, this is Shanghai as well, down at the bottom left. This is the bund. It's got a very European feel to it. These are our students in Beijing climbing the Great Wall. Another picture of Beijing, and then over here we've got Tokyo, so very lively, very bright and crowded. And then up here we've got Singapore. So moving on, I'll let Jim talk about Europe.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. And for a few more cities that have a very European feel to them, Europe, we've got really, these are just great cities. I've had the good fortune to be able to visit all of where our students live, and they really they have a great experience. We've got good jobs, both English and local language speaking in every location. Obviously, London, English is the local language, and very cosmopolitan. You know, London, we have some students who go there because they're fairly they want to feel confident that everyone around them is going to speak English. But we have other students who've lived everywhere in the world, and they choose London because it's such a cosmopolitan city, much the way that people find New York interesting. Much like, again, what Amanda was saying, it's very convenient to get around Europe, so I would say most of our students seem to take off every weekend on EasyJet, Ryanair flights, or airlines that give a little bit better service, to just various places around Europe. Actually, the picture that's in the center at the top, that is the Cité Universitaire in Paris, and that is where our students live. It is absolutely spectacular. It's just as Amanda's referenced, our students live in the heart of the city, in dorms or student housing or apartments, and then they just commute every day, just like a local Parisian or Londoner or Berliner. They're very easy transportation to get around. Wonderful cafe culture in all of these cities. It's very comfortable. I would say possibly to an even greater extent than what Amanda was saying with Asia, that in Europe you can get around with English without any real trouble. And for example, Berlin is our least expensive European destination. London's on the higher end. I know that we touched on prices before for the premium program, so that just you can learn more by just looking on our website as to what the pricing is. But we've got great companies, a great variety of well-known Fortune 500 firms, as well as some high-tech startups, NGOs, really just a great variety in every function. But the better you speak the local language outside of London, and the better your experience is, then the better you're going to compete for those jobs. But I strongly recommend all of these in that you've got a great opportunity, and it's really hard to do on your own. I think we did this call once before, and somebody asked why shouldn't I just do this on our own? And I'm looking at one of the pictures of Spain. Spain has 52% youth unemployment, and they speak Spanish really well because they're local. So the fact that we've been able to get these internships, these are all companies we've met with personally, so they're high-quality internships, but it's also a pretty challenging thing to do in several of these countries. France as well has pretty high youth unemployment, but we're able to place you with these firms through various different connections that we have. Moving on to a slightly better economy in a different location is Santiago, Chile, and Chile is just a wonderful economy. It's a booming, thriving, advanced economy. It hasn't seen some of the up and downs that other countries in Latin America have seen. Right now, Brazil's doing really well as well, but Santiago has consistently done well. So you've got really a great thriving modern infrastructure. Unlike Brazil, they speak Spanish, and a much higher percentage of American students speak Spanish than Portuguese, which is why we go to Santiago. You can do skiing in the summer. We have a picture, actually, if you go to the blogs of our student who was in Santiago, you get to see a picture of them doing some summer skiing. We've got several really great banking internships, and those are very hard to get, but we're very happy to say we've got great banking internships, as well as other marketing and so on, a really variety of industries. But Santiago is just a booming, thriving city, and you're also in a great location. You're right at the foot of the Andes, as you can see from the picture, but then you're also half an hour, 45 minutes away from Viña del Mar, which is sort of a wine region right on the coast, and Valparaiso, which is a great coastal coastal town, port town. So a lot of things to do nearby, but then you can go up and down, to Patagonia in the south, or you can go up to the desert. I mean, there's just a lot to do in Chile. So that brings us to our host companies. So how do you get these host companies is a question I often get when I'm on campus. We leverage our professional networks, our alumni networks, just the networks of people who we've worked with in the past. We have Morningstar, for example, in Madrid, and based on that, we brought in Morningstar in London. So so that's we really do it a variety of different ways, but we have these personal relationships. We meet with and visit the offices and speak with them and explain these are students who are paying for the opportunity to come to Europe, Latin America, Asia to intern. So we want to make sure that they get a real practical professional experience. Nobody wants to go through all that and be filing or picking up your dry cleaning or making you coffee, and they understand that. And so they say, no, don't worry, we've got real work to do. If you send us someone who sort of meets our qualifications, we have real work to do. So we work with them to identify exactly what they're looking for in an intern, and then the country manager helps them matches you up. But just to wrap up on these host companies, large and small, a variety of different industries, and really you'll work with your country manager to identify what the best fit is for you. You'll identify your top few choices, and then they'll reach out to those host companies and say, hey, we've got a candidate, they meet your requirements, we'd love to set up a Skype interview, and we go from there. So that's sort of how a little bit on how the matching works. It's a very personalized process, and actually Amanda will speak now about really how the whole application and matching process work.
All right, thank you. So if you guys want to visit our website, you can apply, you can submit the application. The application is pretty straightforward. We just ask some basic questions, and then we'll also have you upload a resume. And then one of our program advisors can contact you to follow up and schedule an interview. You can also request information if you're not quite ready to submit an application, but we would go ahead and encourage you to apply. So you will have an interview with one of our program advisors. You can also ask them any questions that may not be answered in this presentation, something that you're curious about. If you are accepted after that interview, you'll want to secure your spot with a $500 deposit. That deposit will go towards the overall program fee. Once you have your spot secure on program, we'll work with you to fix up your resume, get it into that standard format I was talking about, give you some tips on ways that you can improve that. We'll also give you some tips on how to have successful interviews with your host company, your country manager. So country manager, that's going to be the person who is going to be working with you through the matching process, and they're actually going to be located in Europe or Asia, wherever you're going to be going. And they'll go through your resume with you, find out really what your goals are, what you want to be doing, and then you guys will jointly decide on the host companies that you would be interested and qualified for. So they take into account all of your preferences, your qualifications, and also those language abilities too. So like Jim was saying, if you do have some language or the local language abilities, it's really going to make you stand out, and you'll have a few more opportunities there. But we do have opportunities for you if you don't have those local language skills. After you guys decide on the host companies, then your country manager is going to reach out to those hiring managers and schedule the Skype interviews. So you can actually speak with the host company, ask them any questions that you have about the position, anything about the job description that might not be clear. If the host company offers you a position, then you can confirm your match. And then the next steps would be to finalize any paperwork. If you needed to apply for a visa, we'll help you get that taken care of. And then we'll do your pre-departure orientation before you would leave. So I think that pretty much summarizes the whole process. But yeah, if you guys have anything else that we didn't answer in our presentation today, be sure you check out our website. There's a place for you to, of course, apply. and also to request more information, you can also give us a call there. So thanks so much for joining, and hopefully we'll work with you soon.